The moment I saw Cheryl's SUV turn onto my trail, I knew she was up to something. Again. I had just finished installing the new goat fencing and the signs warning of private property when her vehicle appeared, cutting through the trees like a knife. I didn't move, just watched her slow down, eyes darting as she stared at the barrier I'd set. She rolled down her window, voice sharp and desperate. "You can't do this," she snapped. "This is community land and I have rights here." I smiled faintly, keeping my voice calm. "Cheryl, you've been told this is my land. You don't have rights to block my road or use my creek. That's illegal." She scowled, trying to act confident. "I have a meeting with the board next week. We're going to fix this. You can't just—" Before she finished, I raised my phone and hit record. "Go ahead and tell them," I said. "But I've got all the proof. The court's already decided. This is my property and you're trespassing." Her eyes flicked nervously. She looked like she wanted to say more, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she gunned the engine and sped off down the trail, leaving a cloud of dust behind. Waited until her SUV disappeared around the bend, then stepped outside, watching her retreat. I knew this wasn't over. Cheryl never quit easily, but she'd just stepped into my trap. The next day, I checked my cameras. Sure enough, there was her car parked near the old HOA shed, which I'd marked on my map as sitting partially on my property. I'd already called the county to have it inspected. Now, I had everything I needed: her unauthorized access, the illegal structure, and her attempts to push through with fake authority. I pulled out my legal files and examined the court order again. It was ironclad. I'd won. But I knew Cheryl would try again, maybe with even more tricks. So I prepared. I called my cousin James, told him about the new intrusion, and asked him to get ready for another court hearing. Meanwhile, I focused on the trail. I added more cameras, increased the signage, and reinforced the fencing. I even installed a motion-activated speaker that played a warning whenever anyone approached. It was simple, legal, and effective. Then, late that afternoon, I spotted a familiar figure approaching, Cheryl, flanked by two men in fake uniforms. They weren't police, just people pretending to be enforcement. I kept my distance, recording everything. "Mrs. Wellington," the man in the uniform said, voice thick with authority. "You're obstructing a sanctioned community project. We're here to ensure compliance." I stepped forward, keeping my tone steady. "This isn't your land, you're trespassing again, and that's illegal." Cheryl's face flushed red. "We're just trying to work with the community," she lied. "You're blocking progress." I shook my head. "You're blocking nothing but your own lies." I pointed to the court order on my phone. "This court ruling makes it clear. You have no rights here." The fake officer hesitated, realizing I had the proof. Cheryl looked like she wanted to shout, but her voice faltered. She spun on her heel and stormed back to her SUV, flustered and defeated. Her two men followed, glancing nervously around. I watched them leave, then double-checked my cameras. I knew she'd try again, but this time, I was ready. Over the next few days, I kept documenting everything, every vehicle, every unauthorized attempt to breach my property. I sent updates to the sheriff's office and kept the court informed. The more they pushed, the more their plans unraveled. One night, I found a strange package on my porch. A small box wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a note. "Sorry for the trouble. We didn't mean to cause so much chaos. Maybe we can find a way to settle this peacefully." No signature, just that. I stared at it for a long moment, then quietly set it aside. I knew better than to trust empty apologies. Cheryl had burned her bridges, and I wasn't about to let her rebuild them on my land. The final twist came when I got a call from the county. They had completed their inspection of the HOA shed and found it unlawfully built across my boundary. They ordered it to be dismantled, no exceptions. Cheryl's last attempt to claim legal rights failed, and as I watched the sheriff's crew take down the structure, I knew this chapter was ending. The land was finally mine, free, clear, and protected by law. But the real victory? That was knowing I'd turned their tricks into their downfall. I'd owned this forest and lake long before Cheryl ever set foot here, and now nobody could take that away. Because sometimes the strongest fence isn't made of wood or wire. It's made of truth, and I'd built mine brick by brick. I watched Cheryl's SUV screech down my trail, her tires kicking up dust like she was trying to erase the evidence of her own failure. The moment she disappeared around the bend, I checked my phone and saw her frantic attempt to call. I didn't answer. Instead, I hit record and kept my eye on the trail, knowing she'd come back. She always did. In the silence that followed, I moved swiftly, pulling out my camera and zooming in on the faint skid marks she'd left behind. They led straight to the illegal structure she'd tried to hide, a makeshift shack built right on my property line, with her HOA logo spray-painted on the side. I pushed record as I approached, my heart pounding. This wasn't just trespassing, it was sabotage. She'd tried to sneak onto my land, staging an emergency to push her lies further. But I had her on camera, and soon the world would see. Minutes later, I heard the distant roar again, her vehicle returning, this time with a crew of men. They jumped out, trying to act casual, but their eyes darted around like thieves caught in the act. I stood my ground, holding my phone high. "Mrs. Wellington," one of them sneered, voice thick with fake authority. "You're obstructing a community project. We're here to fix what you're blocking." I didn't flinch. "This isn't your land," I said clearly. "You're trespassing, and that's illegal." Cheryl's face twisted with anger, but she kept her composure just long enough to shoot back. "We're doing what's best for the neighborhood." I smiled coldly, my finger still on record. "You're doing what's best for yourself, not for anyone else." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "And I've got everything on camera, every illegal move, every lie, every attempt to steal my property." Her eyes flicked nervously, and for the first time I saw her confidence crack. She hesitated, then turned and stormed into her SUV, her crew scrambling behind her. They sped off, leaving behind a trail of dirt and broken promises. I kept recording, knowing this wasn't over. Cheryl always came back, she never gave up so easily. But this time she was walking into a trap I'd set with every piece of proof I had. I slipped my phone into my pocket, feeling the weight of the moment. The battle was just beginning, and I wasn't about to let her take what was mine. Not now, not ever. The courtroom was silent as the judge looked over the mountain of evidence. Cheryl's face was a pale ghost of the confident woman who had tried everything to claim my land. Her lawyer fumbled, trying to salvage a shred of credibility, but the judge's gaze was unwavering. Then he spoke, and his words hit like a hammer. "Based on the documentation presented, it's clear that the plaintiff has no legal claim to this property. The owner's rights are absolute. All attempts to trespass, block access, or develop without permission are hereby declared null and void." That's when I saw Cheryl's composure crack. Her eyes widened as the courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge pointed directly at her, voice firm. "You have repeatedly crossed legal boundaries, misrepresented facts, and attempted to seize property that isn't yours. This court orders the immediate removal of all structures, fences, and signs from the defendant's land. You are also prohibited from any further harassment or interference." There was a collective gasp. Cheryl's mouth opened, then shut. She looked around, helpless, as if she'd been knocked out of her own game. I sat back, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. All the court had to do was confirm what I already knew. This land belonged to me. But then, the unexpected happened. As Cheryl's lawyer gathered his papers, a man stepped forward. Quiet, serious, with a calm voice that cut through the room. "Your Honor," he said, "there's one more matter we need to address." Everyone turned to him. I recognized the voice instantly. Rick, the ex-HOA board member who'd secretly been gathering evidence against Cheryl. He pulled out a small device, pressing a button. Suddenly, the courtroom screen lit up with footage. Cheryl in secret meetings, forging documents, plotting to steal my land, even paying off some neighbors to turn against me. Her own words played, back schemes laid bare. The judge's eyes widened. "Is this true?" he asked. Cheryl's face drained of color. "This is... Rick nodded. "It's all recorded. She's been lying from the start." The judge leaned forward, voice cold and decisive. In light of this new evidence, I am not only ruling in favor of the defendant, but also ordering an investigation into Cheryl's actions for fraud and conspiracy. Cheryl tried to protest, but it was too late. Her empire of lies crumbled before everyone's eyes. As the court adjourned, I felt a strange calm wash over me. The land was mine. The truth had finally won. And the real punchline? As I stepped outside, I saw Cheryl's car being towed away. Her last attempt at control, gone for good. The sun broke through the clouds, shining down on the forest I'd fought so hard to protect. I looked out over the lake, silent and still, knowing this was just the beginning of a new chapter. Not just for me, but for everyone who believed in the real power of truth. Because in the end, no matter how dark the fight gets, the truth always finds a way to surface, and when it does, it changes everything.